What is up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, and today it's time to talk about the new limited and forbidden list. Let's get right into it. Sorry to stop you guys, forgot to put this in. I'm going to be doing a giveaway of free Cardmarket points for new users and existing users over on my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram pages. There are going to be individual codes on each of those, mostly for new users. Come on guys, it's the new limited and forbidden list season. You guys need to pick up a few cards for your changes, tweak your lists a little bit. I'm here to help you out. Cardmarket's here to help you out. Check out those pages, get yourself some free Cardmarket credit, and enjoy. Okay, back to the video. So we're going to do away with the previous weird camera angle we were using for previous recordings and just stick to the off camera because my webcam is hot garbage. So starting things off, I have had a look at the list. This isn't going to be like the live reaction I did with Ahmed for the previous 3-card change because I'm a few days late to the party. I've been a little busy. But I figured we would jump right on into this with starting off on the first and, in my opinion, probably my favorite pick of the list, and that is Block Dragon. So, Block Dragon was massive for Adamancipator, and while Adamancipator wasn't the biggest deck in the metagame, the advantage that Block Dragon gave it was kind of outrageous. And from the way I kind of interacted with it, and the way I experienced the list, it just made the deck too Dragon Ruler-esque and too much unfair advantage built out of one card. The archetype, while strong, just does not hold the same amount of power as it would without the Block Dragon. Also, it's a deck that I inherently dislike at the moment, which is decks in the game that just produce enormous boards, irrespective of the amount of hand traps you put down. And it looks as though with some of the further hits later on into this list, that Konami are trying to make a move away from those decks that are making those kind of 4-5 negate boards that can also play through a couple of hand traps. It's kind of ridiculous. So it's good to see Konami moving away from that sort of thing, even though some of the hits have really made me a bit sad, like by the by. So moving through, we had, I'm going to barrel these two together, we had Jet Synchron and Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion moving to Forbidden on the list as well. Now, it's no secret, these two cards are the favourite picks for Crystron Halka Fibrax at the moment, especially Mecha Phantom Beast, O-Lion being an integral part of almost every Halka Fibrax play under the sun, as well as being a part of the Auroradon combo, which gave us access to disgusting combos like Halka Fibrax equaling, what was it, 2 draws and a VFD or a True King of All Calamities? Those sort of advantage systems just should not exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! A blanket ban, a blanket card negate, plus 2 draws off of any tuner, any non-tuner? No, Konami, no. So, in my opinion, good hits. Jet Synchron, of course, slows the acceleration towards things like Halka Fibrax, while also putting the Emergent Orcus deck, which is going to start coming back based on one of the other changes later on, back into touch. Because the Scrap Orcus list, one of its favourite cards to send to the graveyard, is of course Jet Synchron. So they'll now have to find themselves a different target that's slightly less optimal. So I think it kind of subtly hits that, while also, of course, removing the easy Jet Synchron engine from the traditional Orcus list. From the traditional Halka Fibrax abuse lists. Like, say, for example, Synchro Eldritch is something that comes to mind, that just randomly could spam in 3 tunings, 3 Jet Synchrons, and then just for free have VFD draw 2, without really affecting its main deck chemistry at all. So, it's kind of bananas. One of the areas that this does make me a little bit sad is a deck we'd seen emerging onto the metagame a little bit had been Infernoble Knights. And I know Infernoble really kind of relied on the presence of cards like O-Lion and Jet Synchron for some of its own Halka Fibrax and Isolde based combo plays. And while I'm going against my own advice wherein I was saying I hate kind of 4 or 5 negate decks, Infernoble doesn't set up boards that are as strong as, say, Full Power Adamancipator, so I kind of give it a bit of a pass. It's also something that only really been emerging in the meta, and unfortunately as a side effect of the hits onto Adamancipator and Synchro Eldritch and essentially just Hulk Fibrax abuse, we do unfortunately see Infernoble kind of take the splash damage of that hit as well, with these two Mega Tuners moving onto the Forbidden list. But to my reckoning, that was all of the cards that went to Forbidden for this list. So we'll jump down into the limited section, and oh boy, I'm not sure where they were going with this, but it's interesting to say the least. So the limited section of the Limited and Forbidden list, this kind of changeover this September, was primarily dominated by cards moving from Forbidden to Limited, and not the other way around, as we almost always see it these days. Kind of similar to the previous kind of half Limited and Forbidden list that we saw when Multi-Faker went back to 3. And now we're kind of starting this off with, I think, the mildest of the returning cards, and that's Double Iris Magician. It's no secret that, of course, Pendulum has seen a large variety of hits over the last few lists, repeatedly being pushed down, and I don't think that's entirely unnecessary. I think Pendulum as a mechanic represents something incredibly dangerous for Yu-Gi-Oh! And should be entirely monitored at all costs, and anything coming back should be very, very seriously considered. And Double Iris Magician is a card that went fairly early on in the period of Pendulum Magician dominance. Now, I think it coming back, considering so many things have left the Pendulum decks, like Astrograph Sorcerer, and other mega power cards like Metal Foes. I forget the card, but I'll superimpose it. I don't think this is unacceptable to come back. It searches a Pendulum Graph card, so Star or Time Pendulum Graph. And don't get me wrong, the trap is pretty broken, but you do have to find a way to destroy Double Iris, which with so many good cards at bonusing off of, getting bonuses off of that destruction leaving, it now becomes so much harder to really get the advantage out of Double Iris as consistently as you used to. So I think Double Iris coming back to 1 is acceptable. And limited to 1, I don't think it's going to be breaking the format, but it's definitely going to add a little bit of power to Pendulum Magician, wherein it previously lost it. And I'm interested to see what boards could potentially be set up that end on, say, Endymion with a Time Pendulum Graph set, especially with the lack of Servants of Endymion, because of course that was limited to 1 on a previous list a couple of checks ago. And then we're going to move down to the card that has been looming on my screen for a little bit, but we haven't addressed, and this is the one that I'm not sure about, and that is the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche. My guy Rusty Bucket is back at 1. He's back on the limited list from Forbidden, and I take some truck with this because this card was always a problem, and I played the Orcus deck that played this, and being able to get double Fogblade off of 1 Link 3 in dark decks is kind of disgusting, and I'm concerned. So very obviously, I think the comeback of Rusty Bardiche, Rusty Bucket, does give a bit more power back to Orcus as a meta deck. And that was something that kind of has hit me out of left field. I feel like this whole list has helped Orcus a fair bit. And big confusion with just Bucket coming back. I think there are definitely going to be other dark decks that can abuse it. I have not given it really the time of day to research into what I could really get some abuse out of this in. But with some of the changes you'll see in the semi-limited section as well, which are old friends of the old Phantom Knight deck, I definitely think we're going to be seeing Rusty Bardiche having a big impact on the meta going into the autumn season of Yu-Gi-Oh! For an advanced format. I don't have too many thoughts. Of course, Bardiche does put us in a position where you can't link summon, you can't use it as link material. It's probably going to block your top zone, so it will have certain interactions with the link monsters you're making. IP Masquerena doesn't benefit off of it, unlike some other cards that only stop themselves for the same turn. But the fact that you get the double Fog Blade, or the fact that it can get you to Shade Brigandine, I believe it's called, It sets a dangerous precedent, but like at the very least, it now means that Orcust are back to setting up kind of crescendo Dengirsu, like a Dengirsu that they potentially make in your turn. They can set up the rank up magic, so you're back in a situation where, unless rank up magic was forbidden, I don't believe it was. Nope. So like you're back in a position where you're going to get Kali Yuga. Of course, you're not going to get Azathoted anymore, but like Kali Yuga, concern. And also, now that I've mentioned it, of course, there was that Pendulum deck that could make Bardiche and make I forget. I think it was some sort of dark rank 7, and then make Kali Yuga, and it had Bardiche, Kali Yuga in your turn, and then a Pendulum summon because Bardiche points down. Dangerous precedent. Very dangerous. Not sure how I feel about that. Creative, it means there's going to be a lot more stuff in the metagame now. Opening boards, I think it goes against what Konami was trying to set up with these changes. So that's my 2 cents. Then, something that, again, I take truck with, Called by the Grave going to 1. Now, I guess there's a counterbalance. They were really trying to, obviously, change it so that these runaway decks just don't work. You've got all these, they've taken away these ways to get into Hulk of Firebrax, which is really the flavor of the meta right now when it comes to any sort of combo list whatsoever. And then, of course, they took the Call by the Grave away so that on top of you having a harder time making your Hulk of Firebrax or having to commit more resources to it, you have less ways to stop yourself getting hand-trapped. This puts me in a position where the Invoked Dogmatica deck that I'm playing at the moment feels like one of the strongest things on the planet. Because, admittedly, I now only have one Call by the Grave to stop my Alistair getting Veiled, which is big sad. I'm going to have to try and find some other way around that. Other than that, I feel like the deck is kind of bulletproof because I'm playing, 15 hand traps? 12 if I'm feeling lean. And my opponent has one Called by the Grave to stop me. And Gammas if I'm an idiot and I Ash at the wrong time. Otherwise, that's their lot. Feels a bit bad, man. I would feel very anxious playing a combo deck at the moment, which is what pushes me back against. Like, I'm like, oh, these Pendulum decks and this Orcust deck and these combo things and Rusty Bardiche is really broken, but I have no way of stopping you from hand trapping me. Not... It just means it's going to be another card, which is, if you have it, you have it. It's another 3 or none. It's your maxis. There's so many other cards that are 3 or nones, and it's just another card that goes into that. Feels bad, man. Oh, you had it? Come on, really? Oh, no, I'm going to tell all my friends that he had his Call by the Grave. It's just another one of those. So, we'll see how it goes. And then a card which I think has, of course, come back to huge fanfare, slightly unnecessarily, perhaps, is Harpie's Feather Duster. Now, there's a whole meme. I think Simo got some roastage because he was like, Harpie's Feather Duster isn't broken because no one is playing spells and traps anymore. And I kind of give that whole philosophy a little bit of credence. Lightning Storm's been out. While it's a really expensive card, I don't think anyone has really taken particular umbrage with the existence of Lightning Storm over, say, the already existing cards like I forgot the name of it now, Evenly Matched and things of that ilk. I think for Harpie's Feather Duster fits right back on into the meta as a punishment card for spell trap decks. I think it's a bit more of a disincentive to against playing things like Paleozoic, which again has received help in this list, as we'll get to, and it's a pushback on playing things like Altergeist, and that's unfortunate because those decks, of course, they had a little bit of help in the past, but they're tier 2, tier 1.5, they're middling, so I feel like the nerf and check to those means that you're going to see more monster control decks and not back row control. So when I say monster control, I think Dogmatica is just going to shred this format. I think it's kind of insane. And then decks that can self-replenish their back row stuff, like your Sky Striker and things like that, with the effects of cards like multi-roll, are going to survive. But of course, you do have the Harpie's Feather Duster to completely blow that sort of thing out. So, again, I think it fills the slot of Lightning Storm. I will be siding it in pretty much every deck I play, but that's just because it is such a solid blowout into, at the very least, back row solutions that are set up by decks that are running things like Rusty Bardiche. So yeah, I think it's just absolutely a necessary card, and like worst case scenario, I'm siding it in to stop myself getting Mystic Mind. Woohoo. Continuing into semi-limited, we had a massive number of changes, and the deck that just refused to die and then finally died has come back to life again in the form of Burning Abyss. Now, you guys know I was a big proponent of Burning Abyss when it first came along, and I kind of had a love affair with it here and there. I bubbled YCS London, losing to the eventual winner, playing BA. It was one of my favorite formats that I played in my kind of YouTube hiatus or YouTube absence. I'm interested to see the power the deck will have. With Rusty Bardiche, PK Fire is kind of busted. You can play a huge amount of hand traps in PK Fire. You can get a lot of advantage going with 2 Seers and 2 Graphs. The fact that before, if you used your 1 Graph, you're like, well, there's my 1 free advantage from the deck, really. And when you used your 1 Seer, you had to be so careful to keep it in rotation with your Dante. And now you have an extra free one of each? I'm really hyped for it. I really like it, but I'm also not that big on it because, of course, there's like the Backjack trap deck, and it's always felt a little bit degenerate. So, point of intrigue on either side. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Am I going to play it? Yes. Am I going to like it for the format? Probably. Am I happy it's back? Not really. I feel like there should be more. I feel like other stuff should have been given its turn. Give me my boat back for the love of Christ. But I'm interested to see how Burning Abyss goes. Beatrice is about. Dante's at 3. Seer's now at 2, Graph's at 2, everything else is off. Tour Guide, which we'll get to, is at 3. Bardiche. Movable traps that get off the board and summon more level 3. There is a lot to happen. And then you could probably get Dogmatica in there along the way, and then that's Chaos Monsters, and it lets you get into the Chaos Creator and all of that madness. There is so much potential. I don't know if I can rightly unpack it right now. Like, with multiple Graphs and Seers, you can get BA back into engine status again. Ooh, there's so much we can do. So much potential. But let's talk about the other cards, because I'm kind of just going to run around in circles because I don't have the brain power, having just slammed a can of Monster, to even be able to make this video. I don't think it's wise. ABC Dragon Buster. Big shout out to my man Michael Pibworth. ABC just got the boost it needed. ABC Dragon Buster had no business going to 1. No, the deck wasn't broken anyway. It was like tier 2 at best. It didn't need it. ABC Dragon Buster back to 2, back to 3 eventually. I don't think it's... No, it was a tier 2 menace, maybe. Like, you're like, oh, I lost the ABC, that deck is so broken. Like, it's not consistently broken. It's not broken enough to find it's a main boss monster. The thing around which the entire deck revolves does not deserve to be at 1. So I think 2 is absolutely fine. And then Totally Awesome coming back to 2. I think similarly, it was a card that really didn't have any real reason to go to 1. Particularly, I guess there are decks that can abuse it through Bahamut Shark. But really, I like, it was an indirect hit to Mermail before. Paleozoic wasn't really doing anything. Paleozoic is inherently slow, and it's just vastly outclassed by Altergeist in today's metagame age. So Totally Awesome going to 2. Again, I have no thoughts on it. Big shout outs to Adam Black. The +1 card returns to 2. Then finally, for cards moving to unlimited from the list, there was a pull from a variety of pools. So Makiura the Destructor is of course coming back to 3 from Forbidden for the longest time. Forbidden from the first time I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Long before I quit for 4 years and then came back into the game. Makiura the Destructor is completely unlimited. Of course, that's due to the errata, but as far as I'm aware, for the next 3 weeks, not that it matters because we're in lockdown again in the UK, for the next 3 weeks, I'm pretty sure the car is on its old text, so some degenerate's going to show up to their locals playing the FTK. I'm just saying. Then something to celebrate with enormous fanfare is Tour Guide from the Underworld moving back to 3. She's back. Let's go. She's back at 3, boys. I guess I have thoughts. Like, she gets the Sangan, and Sangan can search you like a cute hand trap, and you can get all sorts of stuff done. I forget, there was another cool card that she searched that could special summon itself to the field. And oh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but I digress. Like, I'm pretty sure there was some combo along the way where she gets you to a free Rusty Bardiche through a Sangan search. That's kind of wild, but I'm probably going the wrong way around on it. It's back at 3. It's super consistent. Gives massive help to Burning Abyss, along with the 2 Graph and the 2 Sir. So I think we're going to see some absolute Dark Level 3 Menace decks doing the rounds. It gives more credence to the silly little Fiend version, the Phantom Knight version of Plunder Patrol that I was playing right at the start of my YouTube comeback. Go check that out. So I think she adds a lot of promise, and of course she's super easy to shut down. Ash exists, Phaler exists, so I don't think she's broken in any way, stretch of the imagination, so I'm happy she's back on a personal level, because I miss her from the Rabbit days, and I think Rabbit is almost entirely back at full strength, which is kind of interesting. Maybe we renaissance the Rescue Rabbit deck. But we'll move on through the list. Evergishki Gustkraken. Gustkraken, again, it was, if memory serves, a hand loop deck. Yep. I think with all the hand traps that exist in the game, like, this is the least of our concerns. There is probably some Bananas Gishki deck that's going to do the rounds and troll a couple of events, but I don't think it's going to be in any way consistent enough to be a regular threat. Fingers crossed. Maybe someone's going to come up with like the perfect Gustkraken list that's going to repeatedly take your hand away. I don't know that the deck does have a perfect hand loop. I just seem to recall that the consistency of it is very, very low. So if the probability calculations are fine and it's lower than, say, 60-65% consistent, we don't really need to worry too much. It's just going to be something that turns up at the early events of a YCS or the early events of your locals and scumbags you out of a game. You're going to feel really, really bad about it, but it's probably not going to go very much further than that. Then otherwise, Pantheism of the Monarchs went to 3. Of course, there are still a few other Monarch cards that are still sitting pretty on the Forbidden Limited list. I think Monarchs can have a few cards back. I think the deck is far too slow for today's metagame. It definitely represents a few cards that could cause problems. And again, it may well be a tier 2, tier 2.5 local stomper. But again, I think from a competitive standpoint, we can see Pantheism come back without very much impact on the game. We are a long way from Monarch format and the effect that it had on the game in ages past in terms of EDM and Field Spell Monarch or no extra deck Monarch, so I don't think we need to worry too much about Pantheism. And then closing out, Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor went back to Unlimited from Semi-Limited. Again, similarly, it's kind of interesting. Sky Striker has really become the new age Burning Abyss, the eternal format deck that never dies. I don't think it needed Widow Anchor to come back. I don't think it causes an enormous amount of trouble with coming back to 3. I don't think Sky Striker is in any way a consistent tier 1 pick anymore. The Mystic Mind version of it, which currently plagues my local scene, is a problem. And of course, this is going to give it that extra bit of a boost. But I think it's by the by. I don't think it's huge. It gives the deck a little welcome power boost as long as cards like Multi-Roll and Hornet Drones stay on the limited list, and as long as the love of all things good and great in Yu-Gi-Oh! Engage stays forbidden. So guys, that brings me to about the end of the walkthrough on this here list. I hope you've all enjoyed. I'm intrigued by what this format will bring, and I hope we get enough time to play it, given, of course, the current state of affairs across the planet. Do be safe. I'd love you guys to get the opportunity to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But remember, safety comes first. The cards will be there afterwards. As I inserted right at the start of the video, we are going to be doing a giveaway on my Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter account of free Cardmarket credit in the form of new user memberships and existing users. So do check those out. There will have been one in this video as well at a random insert, but I hope you've all enjoyed. If you have, please feel free to leave this a like. Comment down below with your thoughts on the limited and forbidden list. I would love to hear your favourite card that you would have liked to see come off or change that didn't change, and your favourite card that you wanted to see get put on. So one on, one off. Love to see that in the comment section down below. Lets me know you got to the end of the video. Hope you've all enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new here. Share this with your friends if you think they'd be interested. I have been Jamie the Kid 00. You have been a wonderful audience. Check out Cardmarket in the link description below. And I'll see you guys next time with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content. I've been Jamie the Kid 00. Peace out. Bye-bye.